Hello again. Going to see how far we can get with finishing up my Arkansas Gowrow here. Little guy. Just basically to the point where I'm going to refine it a little bit and then do some details. One thing I'm about to try to do is resculpt this spike at the back here so that it will be a little bit less of the same thing as I've got there and a little bit more kind of weird blade-like sort of thing, maybe. You can see how fluid this stuff can be when it's really hot. I got it a little warmer than I wanted. So it's going to take a little bit of patience to work with it, but already it's looking a little closer to what I want it to be. Hopefully the lighting's a little bit better this time. I worked on that in the intervening time. I've got a lamp shining over my shoulder here, trying to add a little fill from the right, and I've taken a Kleenex actually to the light under the camera, folded it over a few times. Everybody leaves me alone until I'm trying to record things. But yeah, I actually just took a bracelet and had elastic around in it, so I just kind of elasticed around the thing so that it would hold the Kleenex over it to diffuse and diminish a little bit of the light. Diffusing was the big important thing. It was getting really harsh shadows. It was really, really high contrast, and it just didn't show off what I was doing at all. So I'm sorry for the really crappy stuff. I'm learning, trying to try some things out and see what I can do. Hopefully you can understand how that is. If you're still watching me, you're very patient to begin with, so thank you. Okay, that'll be a lot closer to the kind of thing I was looking for. Now I'll just kind of form a connection here. That's not quite the way I wanted that to sound. I'm going to bond with it, yeah. Might be a trick to mold this. That whole form is a little on the tricky side. Usually something that long and thin is not a good idea. But rubber is pretty forgiving, thankfully, so we'll see what I can do. Okay, so we've got the basic form of my Gowrow here. Tusks coming out of its face. Nose. I can work on the details of its mouth a little, maybe. And in the sketch, well, first of all, I'm going to have to build a little bit more out here so it actually looks like it's bending around. I've got a big flat spot right now. So let's get a little of this clay here. Look at how wet looking that is. That's some hot stuff. Thankfully, this has a relatively low melting temperature, so I'm not burning myself. And anybody who knows me knows that I am a temperature wuss, so it can't be that hot. Once I get this rounded out, I'll put a ridge going down its back. Being careful not to crush all the facial features and stuff that I've already sculpted. Because then I'll just have to go back in and do all that all over again. And you know what? I don't really feel like it. So let's not. Kind of refine the separation here a little bit before I move on. Alrighty, that looks a little bit more believable curve. I like having just a little lump in there though. I like my monsters lumpy. I want to smooth that out if I can though, that part. Okay, now let's see if I can get a little bit of a ridge going down the back. Kind of a spinal ridge. I don't want it to be very thick. Just a little thin sort of thing. Because I also kind of want to put some little bitty spikes beside it. So let's... Oh yeah, I gave him in the sketch, I gave him a bump on the back of the neck. So let's... Or the back of the skull, I mean. Let's go ahead and lay this in, but not get too high up. So I can do that. It's getting a little trickier down here. Should have made it thinner at the back. So I think I will. That should help a little. off that way. A little bit higher. Go right under the chin there. There we go. Mostly just kind of pressing it in instead of smoothing it out just yet. I want it to stick down fairly well, so I'll be manipulating it a little bit when I get there. And I'll be carving some more off of it because it's so large still. And I don't want it popping off of there while I'm in the middle of that. Funny how that is, right? I am listening to anime soundtracks to Gegege no Kitaro while I do this, my all-time favorite anime series, because it's all about monsters. Yokai, specifically. Like I've said before, and I'll say again, Japan, king of the monsters. Boy, do they have the best ones. America's no slouch either, I gotta say. I mean, here I am sculpting one after another crazy, crazy monster, all coming from the United States. We've got a long history of monsters here, too. But when you look at colorful craziness, Japan really knows how to do it upright. Everything from mundane, cute, to horrifying. It's the same, I suppose, could be said for the United States, though. I used to think, before I studied so seriously all the folklore I could get my hands on from many, many different areas of the world, I used to think that Japan had the most monsters of all the places on the world. But I don't really know if that's true anymore. I think it may just be that we've been exposed to them more than we have even our own. And I suppose that's kind of sad in a way, but it's also really exciting that we get to have that look at another culture. Come on, smooth on down there. You can do it. I know you can. There we go. I tell ya. If you ever want people to get in touch with you, do stuff where you don't want to respond. You know, I said I was going to carve the ridge down, but I don't know. I'm kind of liking it. It's not as obnoxious as I was afraid it would be. Yeah. I might leave it for now anyway. Cool. Cool. Do some more detail around that in a minute. Okay, so let's get spiky. I'm debating on how much I should go for the spikes, though. I was afraid that wouldn't work. If this is hot enough, now if I took my heat gun to it and warmed it up and got it all nice and soft and almost sticky, and did the same for this, I could get those and then whoop, like that to just pull a spike off. But that'd be way too fine a detail for what I need. Just thought it might be fun to do. Pulling a mold off of a handful of little spikes like that might be a really bad idea. Instead, I'm going to make them thick spikes. And hope it's still not too bad. Okay, there's one little bitty spike. Toss you back in there for now. Let it warm back up. Don't have quite enough on there. So let's dip it in a little more chocolate. No, it's not really chocolate, I guess, but sure feels like it. To come back and carve that down after it cools. But for now, I just want to get this kind of smoothed down a little so it bonds a little better and I get a smoother connection. Okay, I'll have to carve that just a little bit, but we'll move on for now. Warm, warm. There, it's cooling down a little. I can actually make a ball out of it finally. Or an egg, as the case may be. It's too much. In fact, I'll take a little bit more even. See if I can manipulate this little guy. It's getting a little tight in there. Okay. I'll come back to carve that down a little bit too. I think I'll put another one right about here. See if I can put one at the corner here for a connection spot. Hopefully it doesn't complicate the mold too much. It might even make it easier. We'll see. Oh, there it is. It's a good thing I don't move around when I'm doing this, because I would lose tools everywhere. Squish that down in there. There's no need for it to be down there. Not that big hole. May have to fill it a little. Okay. We'll work on that a little more when it gets cooler, just like the others. Okay. Ouch, that's my elbow. I think I may let that one cool down a little bit while I dip my finger in chocolate and put it over there, the edge again. I just can't make my life easy, can I? Need a little clay in there so I can dip my tool on it and we'll let the stuff stick. There we go. Okay, surely that's cooled enough to cooperate a little better now. Or maybe too much. Yep, a little more than I wanted. But that's okay, it'll still work. It just takes a little more finagling. Okay. Probably ought to put at least one more down here, which unfortunately means I'd have to have one right there. That might be a little awkward. What about this sculpture isn't, right? You'd think a tiny little thing wouldn't be all that big a deal, but boy, they can be a pain in the booty. Yeah, I'll put one on down there. And actually, let's start with the jawline one. See what I can do with it. And if that turns to be a really poor choice, then I might not do it on the bottom. It really is a shame that the United States hasn't picked up on Kitaro. It is, as I gather, a cultural phenomenon in Japan since the 1960s when Shigeru Mizuki first created him and he became an anime. Apparently, he became extraordinarily famous and beloved, of course, because not only did he make a beloved character, but he also brought back to popularity the idea of yokai. It wasn't just him that did it, of course, but he was apparently one of the driving forces, to say the least. And this was, I gather, from what I've read about it anyway, this was something that people knew about yokai, but they didn't really, it wasn't really part of the popular culture anymore by the early 1900s. But apparently his grandmother shared with him all of the old stories when he was young, and he was captivated, as one would be, I would expect, and always believed in them, just as she did, I gather, and really felt that the culture was missing out on part of their history, but also part of, who they were, who we are as people in general, really. Monsters are of all different shapes, sizes, and types. They're really who we are and what we do. says more about us, what we create, than what we could ever actually say. Needless to say, I fully agree with him. Except for the literal believing in yokai. That's another thing entirely. Sure wish it were true, though. Wouldn't that be cool? I say that, but yep. You're probably watching this. Hopefully, if I have all my stuff together correctly, you're probably watching this just after I was talking about yokai to myself mostly. But the battery ran out again. Yay. Isn't that always fun? I don't know. Guess it's not too bad. Keeps you from having to miss out or sit there and watch me perpetually for hours and hours and hours. If you want to do that, I'm going to post more videos. And please do. Oops. Oh, don't want that on the couch. Probably not the best place in the house to do this, but it's comfortable. Yeah. Boring and slow at this point, right? Just slow, tedious, mundane labor of art. Let go. Hopefully, I'll have my rubber to make a mold or two in the mail very shortly. As in, I'm really hoping tomorrow, but I don't think so. Thanks, COVID. But as soon as it does get here, I can start making molds. And then I can cast them suppose I should order some plastic then, huh? Yeah, I might have to do that as soon as I finish this. Oop, dropped a little. No, dropped a lot. Okay, why not? Boy, lighting in there is not easy. Alrighty. My favorite seasons, or series, I should say, of Kitaro are the first one and the Kabe, Kitaro of the Graveyard, that are the creepier ones. The first one is interesting in a lot of ways to me because, well, it's the first one. Made in the 60s. It's a black and white anime. Um, very traditional in a lot of ways, but very much not in other ways. Um, it's difficult to be too non-traditional in the 60s because anime hadn't been going on for all that long beforehand. So pretty much anything you do becomes traditional. But I really love that Kitaro could be something intended for children, but could be also very creepy as well. Not the American mentality of, oh, you must protect children from being afraid of anything. Nah. So dumb. Even Halloween's being ruined by the whole idea of, oh, children should be totally protected from anything creepy. As long as it's not real scary stuff, why not? We all need a little bit of creepiness and scary in our lives. That's why some people like horror movies. I'm not a big fan of horror movies myself, but I do like my monster movies. Yeah, there's a lot of psychology to explain all that, I'm sure, but I never read a bunch of it, but still, it really just kind of boils down to the fact that humans just want to be safe but scared. And creepy is just a really low level version of that. to me, I think creepy, if handled correctly and well, can be even more effective. I'm not a fan of Stephen King's work, but as far as his talk about horror, he's pretty darn genius. I don't remember how the quote actually goes, but he talked about 3 different stages or types of scares. The lowest and least sophisticated, least useful in a lot of ways, I guess, is the jump scare, the gross out, the severed head. Ooh, oh dear, that scared me. Yeah, you're not all that scared, actually. You're just instant reaction. It's like being startled is kind of thing. You're grossed out, sure. This video camera is annoying me. 84%, no, sorry, 86% battery still, and it just shut itself off for no reason. No warning, just turn itself off. Beep, I give up on you. I'm going to have to look up what the problem is with that. I thought it was overheated, but no, it's definitely not that hot. I don't even have the battery cover on it, so it doesn't stay heated up. But anyway, what I was talking about before I was so rudely interrupted again, camera, was just mindless musing on scary stuff. So it's not that important. But yeah, I mean, I loved Stephen King's idea that the gross out is the lowest form of horror. It's just certainly not sophisticated. It's not something that'll actually linger with you other than just disgusting kind of thing. And that's, it has its place, but that doesn't really do anything for me. I don't like it. I don't like the Saw movies or anything junk like that. But he also says that there's, true horror on the other end of the scale is, I think it was his example was you come home after work or whatever and find that someone has taken all of your stuff and replaced it with perfect, exact replicas. You can't prove that anything's happened, but you know it has happened. That kind of intangible, can't put your finger on it kind of thing, but still is undeniably terrifying. Some idea of bigger, scarier problem, bad things. That's really good scare. Not as easy to get across in writing, I imagine. But pretty cool stuff. Cosmic terror. Okay, he's spiky. Let's give him a little ridge on the back of the head like I did on the sketch. See how that turns out. Hot, hot, hot. You can cool down a little now, please. Too much, probably. Let's just pull a little off. Yeah, look at the texture it creates when it's super soft like that. Just kind of tears off in a sort of Play-Doh kind of way. But it'll smooth out. My soundtrack ran out. It's so quiet. A lot of people experience that cosmic terror if they're exposed to silence too long. Trust me. I'm not a silence kind of guy. I think the problem with it is that it lets my brain keep working. I don't have anything to focus my brain on, and oh boy, that's never a good call. I always like to say that most people aren't conspiracy theorists, but their brains can be when they're left alone. Because you always imagine really crazy things. Did I hear something? Yeah. Is there somebody in the backyard? Is there somebody looking in the window on the other side of that shade? What's that in the darkness behind you? Yeah. All right. I don't want it quite so cone-like there, but I'm starting to really like the ridge, though. Give it more of a skull indication. I was struggling to figure out the wording that I was wanting to go with there. Yeah. Yeah. He's kind of snake-like. I probably ought to put an arm or something in there, but I don't really want to, so because I don't think it'd look good with the design. Yeah. Yep. Besides, it'd probably be down here somewhere. Then under here. So that's pretty close. I think I'm just going to do some texture, giving it a little bit of surface design or something, and then call it good. Clean up some of the unintentional little lines and things. Smooth it out. I don't know, actually. I may just do this kind of tool scratchiness across a lot of it and give it just that kind of a tooled surface. That might look nicer. I don't know. Though I do need the clay in my hand to drop off the shavings if I do that. Ooh, that's really hot. Yep, still warm. Still warm. Ooh, oh yeah, you're hot. Yep, there you go. Okay. It's like a baked potato in my hand. Yep, there's the temperature wussy thing again. Yeah, I think I'm going to like that better. It gives it kind of a strange textured skin feel, but nothing too explicit as to exactly what we're looking at. not precisely scales or something, but maybe it could be. Kind of ambiguity is nice. And it lets me do a little cross hatching and things to artificially shadow things like that. When I decide to paint one of these, it'll allow me a little bit more pigment to rest in those little scratchy kind of spaces. I have no idea what I'm hearing in my headset right now, but it's just some weird nothingness is really what it should be. But I'm hearing a weird kind of repeating. I don't know what it is really. A whine kind of thing. Ow. But higher pitch. Oh, don't go down there. It's already difficult to keep stuff out of there. My cat was asleep at my foot down there. Just apparently had a dream too. I think the silence may affect him too. But he jumped, startled awake just now. I don't think you can see him in screen. Okay. Okay. I keep dropping it on myself. Yep, just like that. See how much cat hair I can get on there. Yeah, that's going to be pretty good texture to contrast between the relatively smooth spikes and the back ridge. Later on I'll fill in some more of this down here so it's just a flat bottom. Make it a lot easier to mold and cast. It won't really make any difference for the sculpture because nobody's really going to be looking at the bottom for very long. Plus I could put my signature or something down there. Put my Tailypo on it. Tailypo. I want my Tailypo. Yep, this is the slow part. So much skin to go over. I'm not going to do the head, but because I want it to contrast better. But I'm going to do most of the tail. Maybe not all of it. Give it a little contrast down here again, so maybe I won't do it down there. But yeah. Bunch of it though. Kind of randomize the edge a little better so it doesn't look so planned. Not so mechanical. If you're going to do something by hand, make it look like it's done by hand, right? Not saying make it terrible so that everybody can tell you did it by hand, but do things that automated processes can't really do very well, like actual randomization. That is a really strange noise, and it's starting to get on my nerves. It's almost got to be some sort of a signal interference. off of there. There we go. How far to go? I think probably overlap a little here. So it's not like, and stop kind of feel. Just about to take off my headset because that's really annoying. It's super quiet, but now that I don't have any other audio, it seems to be screaming. Getting close now. Nope. Don't want to think about what that noise was. Good thing about having a cat is that the noises that I hear, I know that it's only ever something to worry about if it bugs him. I say as he freaks out. Great. But that was just because he's having nightmares again. Okay. Just do a little blending of this off to the end where it's not going to have any. It's instead of giving it a straight, like, here's where I stopped doing texture. I'm going to hopefully make it look a little bit more like it's supposed to be, going away a little. It just kind of peters out. I'll add to that by kind of smoothing a little bit here and there. Okay. All right, so that ought to do it. I'm probably going to go back in and do a little bit more detail work just before I do some molding, but I think this is just about right. Maybe I want a little detail that way. Yeah, that's a little nicer. Okay, that should do it for now, he says as he keeps working. All right. Yeah, may do a little bit more detail on the face, but I think that's pretty much where it's going to be. It's the most detailed one I've done so far, which means I'll probably go back and do some detail on the other stuff. Cool. That'll be kind of fun. Okay, finally I'm done. See you in the next monster.